Leadership is more than a title. It's about creating impact, inspiring growth, and unlocking the potential in others. I'm Alessandra LaTour, and for over 15 years, I've helped leaders, from aspiring managers to executives, achieve exactly that. As a doctor of education and educational leadership, I bring academic expertise, real-world experience, and a passion for empowering leaders to my workshops and presentations. Through the LaTour Leadership Academy, I guide leaders in mastering leadership presence to inspire trust, building team synergy to foster collaboration, and driving positive productivity to achieve meaningful results. My speaking experience spans a variety of settings, including delivering continuing education talks, facilitating workshops and leadership summits, leading team building events for corporations, and hosting or guest speaking on multiple podcasts. My approach to speaking is all about creating a conversation. I believe different perspectives are what make leadership and life truly dynamic. I bring my expertise and experience to the table, but I also love engaging with the audience to make every session meaningful. The goal is for attendees to leave with practical, relevant inspiration they can immediately apply in their day-to-day lives. Every speaking engagement is grounded in the values that matter most: empowerment, fostering a growth mindset, selflessness, and authenticity. It's not just about what leaders achieve, it's about who they become along the way. Whether it's small teams or groups of hundreds, I've led impactful sessions tailored to every leader's journey. I specialize in topics that resonate with today's leaders, including emotional intelligence, authentic leadership, change management, and overcoming imposter syndrome. Each session is designed to inspire growth and deliver actionable takeaways. This clip is an excerpt from a podcast episode where I responded to pre-submitted questions as the host.
So I think that there's probably three really common things that I would say most leaders, when they're new or when they're taking on a new team, make. And so the first one be trying to do everything yourself instead of delegating. So yes, sometimes as a new leader, we want to show what we can do and show our knowledge and show our expertise. But when you delegate, you actually show strength in relying on the people around you, right? So as a leader, you want to be able to rely on the people around you and their expertise and showcase their value, because as a leader, you are supposed to be cultivating other leaders. So instead of doing everything yourself, try delegating. And when you delegate, there's really four reasons we would delegate. One is for weakness. So if it's something that you can't do very well yourself and you know somebody's stronger at it, you might delegate. One is for scale. Let's say you've got so much on your plate and you just don't have time for this task and you need to push it off on somebody else, and that's delegating for scale. Now, that doesn't always feel comfortable, and it sometimes comes too quickly, right? So if you're really busy and you need to move something, you might not give the best directions. You might not give the best support. You might not choose the right person. You're just trying to get rid of this thing, right? So you'll want to be really careful if you're delegating for scale that you are going to the right person. You're giving the right instructions and support, and you're not just throwing something at somebody just to get it off your plate.
This next clip features an excerpt from a podcast episode where I answered questions from the host and engaged with a fellow guest speaker.
Wonderful, wonderful. Alessandra, to conclude, your take on how managers should reskill or upskill, or maybe in themselves build that kind of approach, maybe to have that leadership skills within them, or maybe to face the situations or circumstances as a leader. What is required in them, or just to conclude on this?
Sure. I just want to speak to Ishwar's list of books. And the Five Dysfunctions of a Team is great. Dare to Lead is great. I would add on there, and it kind of ties into what you're asking here, Jason, is Primal Leadership by Daniel Goleman. That one focuses on emotional intelligence, and I feel like that's one of the most important skills that's foundational for great leadership. If you're not aware about emotional intelligence, there's really 4 buckets or domains of emotional intelligence. And the first one, self-awareness. You recognize your own emotions and their impact on your behavior and decision-making. The second one, self-management. And so that's when you're able to really maintain a positive attitude in challenging situations. So some might say that's a growth mindset. The third is social awareness. We know about empathy. There's a lot of talk about empathy, which is one of the competencies in that domain. If you have social awareness, you're able to build stronger relationships. And then once you have those three, you're better at the fourth, which leads into the skills for great leadership, and that's relationship management. And that's where you really get into those people-oriented tasks I mentioned earlier.
This next clip showcases an excerpt from a virtual workshop I led on emotional intelligence.
EQ begins with a foundation of self-awareness, which leads to self-management and allows for the awareness of others, social awareness, and thus relationship management. Now that we know how these four domains build on each other, we're going to explore them a little bit further. And I'm sure at this point you're wondering how to figure out where your strengths are and where you have opportunities to learn how to build your EQ. Each of the EQ domains is made up of a number of competencies or skills. If you've downloaded the workbook we sent out before the session, you can follow along and make notes as we look at the competencies in each domain. Check off the ones you feel you're good at as we discuss them. And a quick tech suggestion before we continue, if you're using the workbook digitally, make sure you're saving now and again so your notes and your check marks save for later. Self-aware leaders are honest with and about themselves. They deeply understand their emotions, strengths, limitations, and motives. Their decisions mesh well with their values, leading to feeling energized by their work. And these leaders are self-reflective and thoughtful, resulting in actions that are authentic and showcase strong convictions. The three competencies or skills in self-awareness are emotional self-awareness, accurate self-assessment, and self-confidence. All of these competencies are ways that leaders are honest with and about themselves. Leaders who have emotional self-awareness believe in harmony with their values, coming across as authentic and candid. They're attuned to their team members. Team members whose leaders possess self-awareness are 29% more engaged in their work. Engagement is closely linked to job satisfaction and productivity. Leaders with accurate self-assessment know their strengths and limitations, and they can even laugh at themselves, allowing for grace when they need to improve. These leaders welcome feedback and know when to ask for help. Organizations with leaders who accurately assess their skills experience a 23% improvement in team performance. Self-confident leaders know their abilities with accuracy and will often take on difficult tasks and responsibilities. Their sense of self-assurance can make them stand out in a group. 80% of team members believe that confident leaders positively influence their job satisfaction. Confidence in leadership is linked to trust and morale within teams. How do you feel about your mastery of the self-awareness domain? What competency do you want to work on? Feel free to unmute or type in the chat and share with us.
This clip features a live coaching session where I respond to pre-submitted questions from the audience.
Hi, everybody. Thought we'd get started today. Most of our questions that came in were about the last month's content, which is about time management. So I'm excited to get right into your questions. Thanks so much for submitting them. So the first question that came in is, how can I better prioritize my daily tasks? So I think the first suggestion I have is to make a to-do list and start by ranking those tasks by importance. And I want you to remember, a list doesn't allot time to tasks. So if you don't put your items on a schedule, or in your schedule rather, giving them time, you're probably not going to do them. And I want you to start with the most critical tasks first. So we recommend here at the LaTour Leadership Academy, the Eisenhower Matrix. And you can find out more about it in our course, Leadership by the Minute, Strategic Time Management for Leaders. And then also consider breaking down big projects into smaller, manageable tasks. For example, you might need to complete 10 performance reviews for your team. Start with the first step of writing down your review of their performance, then send the team their self-evaluation form with a deadline, and then schedule a meeting with each one, and so on. So you break it down into smaller, manageable tasks. All right, the next question that came in was, how do I stay focused on long-term goals with so many daily demands? I think this is something that all of us suffer from, right? We're constantly bombarded by demands from family, friends, work, and we have to figure out how we're going to manage all those. So I think the most important thing, or one of the important things, is to keep your long-term goals visible and revisit them regularly. So that might mean you hang up a list on your wall, or you put it as background wallpaper on your laptop screen or your phone. And then add a task to your calendar each month. Say, like the first of the month, to check in on how you're doing with those goals and write down any action steps on your to do list. And then remember to allot them time on your calendar, right? Without time on your calendar, they're really not important to you and they're not going to get done.
Here's a snippet from another live coaching session where I address questions submitted in advance by participants.
Some strategies for promoting knowledge sharing. Okay, so I'm assuming here you're talking about, you've got some people that are really experts in different areas and you want them to kind of cross pollinate so that everybody gets a little bit of a taste of it. And maybe they can pick up if somebody's on PTO or something like that. So there's a couple of strategies here. You could establish some sort of centralized knowledge sharing platform, maybe a Google Drive, a SharePoint, even on some of the project management softwares, you can dump files in there and have them in a great way, kept in a great way. But some sort of centralized knowledge sharing platform would be useful if you're trying to share knowledge across your team. So that kind of talks a little bit into cross training and job shadowing, right? So I always think it's important that everybody on the team understands what everybody else does. So if you have a new person coming in, or you've got people that are taking on different roles, it's really important to outline what's the role and the responsibilities for this new person for this new role. And I think then also, if it's a brand new person, giving a presentation, or a brief presentation, not like a formal presentation, where each person's sharing, here's what I do, here are the ways that I can support you, here are the ways that you can support me. Here's what I do, here are the ways that I support you, here are the ways you can support me, and really just giving a high level view of the different roles and responsibilities on your team can be really a great way to introduce somebody new or introduce that new role to the group. And it really gets back to that accountability piece, right? Now they know, well, this person does that, so they're accountable for these things. And then I do this, and this is separate. So it really can help differentiate the different roles on your team and help people really understand where work should be shuttled if it needs to move among people.
Participants leave with not just strategies, but a renewed sense of purpose, clarity, and confidence. Here's what the leaders I worked with have to say. Ready to transform your leadership team? Let's work together to empower leaders, build stronger teams, and create lasting impact. Book me for your next workshop, interview, or keynote. I look forward to working with you.